looking at it from the casino side, you have to have, as a casino operator, you have to have a system that is 100% sound, because you have a hostile crowd of customers that are looking to take your money. So it sounds strange, but I'm just trying to think how to put it in a soft way. But the reality is, when players come into a casino, they're not looking to give you their money and go home and feel good about it. They're looking to take your money.
This is the Alden Report.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be wicked happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com. Apparel to make you smile.
This is the Alden Report.
All right, my name is Mike Alden. We are here in Blue Bay Studios. Starting out a little bit with some technical difficulties, but hey, you know what? We still make it happen. I'm super excited for my next guest. My next guest comes all the way from Australia. He's the CEO of a company called Golden Matrix, a company that specializes in online gaming. Now, if you've been following me, listening to me, and hearing about some of the things that I've done, I've actually been involved in that world a little bit, and I'm super excited to have Brian on to not only talk about what Golden Matrix is doing, but where the industry is going, and also how companies can capitalize on this online gaming world. And when I say online gaming, I'm not necessarily talking about, casino type stuff. There's other ways where, people are making money in this space and also building an audience. So please help me welcome Brian Goodman. Brian, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thank you, Mike. Always good to be out there and spreading the word, but more so gambling than gaming. But yep, let's have a chat.
Yeah. So let's just get into it. So I was really interested with what your company's doing. You guys are publicly traded on the Nasdaq, and you go to your website, which is goldenmatrix.com. I mean, just be honest with you, it's hard to kind of really figure out exactly what you guys are doing, but let's just start there. What exactly is Golden Matrix? Who do you cater to? Let's just kind of start there.
So yeah, Golden Matrix started out as a B2B business. So really, what we decided to do was to create a product that would allow people that are land-based operators to transition from land-based, or to add to their land-based offering an online offering. So it's pretty much like any retail business. That if you don't have an online presence, you're pretty much a dinosaur, and you won't survive in the longer term, because that's, I guess, where the whole market's moving, and not only gaming. It's obviously applicable to any business, but more so in COVID times, because as you know, all of these major casinos had some downtime, if that's what I want to call it, but pretty much they had zero revenues. They had nobody that could come into the casinos, and if they had an online presence, then obviously they could have generated some huge incomes, because in actual fact, those people that were visiting the land-based operations were stuck at home, and in that situation would have all played online. So we're not offering them something that's a hard sell. It's a reality check.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I remember we're here in Boston, and the Encore Hotel here, which is a Wynn property, opened up, and couldn't have been a worse time for them. It was one of the largest projects here in Massachusetts. I think it was like $5 billion, and then COVID hits, and it just it really had a negative impact on them. So all right, let's talk about the casinos for a second, because you do see, like, Caesars is advertising like all over the place, especially on sports related sports related television, games like football and basketball, they're advertising pretty heavy about, their online platform and their app, and, some of these other big kind of gaming companies. Domestically here in the United States, where is the online gaming world headed? Because, for instance, poker, there's only a few states where poker's available, and then there's also a few states where you have sports betting that's available. But where is the industry going, and has COVID accelerated it one way or another?
Yeah, so I think, as I mentioned, that most major land-based operations, as well as some of the fantasy type operations that weren't really hardcore gambling, have now realized that this is where they need to be. And I think the government, in 2000, I think in 2007, there was a Unlawful Internet Gaming Act that made it through your, I think it was the Senate. I'm not exactly sure what the lawmaking procedure is. But at the end of the day, what happened was that, in fact, I was an operator at the time, a B2C operator, and most of us had to close down our operations because of it, and we went to look for other markets. But I think the reality is that the governments have realized that Americans are generally are betting on sports primarily, and they whether it's regulated or legal in the states, they then using potentially illegal operations to get their bets on. And so what's happening is it's not stopping them from placing these bets, but what's happening is the states are losing out on the taxes, which in effect is a huge income for the states. And so the move is primarily in sports betting to become regulated in a lot of the states, and I'm sure there are many more will follow. And then in some of the states, very few right now, online gambling, as in online casinos, is also being regulated as opposed to being banned. So it also, I think, over time will also gain some traction, and these states will realize that it's a good source of income for them if they can rather control it in a regulated form rather than just allow people to go out and maybe gamble illegally. Is a better concept, and also, like I say, it brings in revenues. But the bigger end of the town, and it's not only the land-based casinos. When you talk about Caesars and these kind of people, it's also, as I mentioned, the Flutters and the DraftKings, which are used to be in softer fantasy type sports, and now turning their attention to hardline sports betting, as well as in time looking towards online casinos. And there is a bit of a difference between traditional well-known brands that have bricks and mortar presence and people that are exclusively online, and that comes down to how they recruit people, and that situation is right now is a bit of a disaster for some of the operators, because the cost of acquiring players is very high. But going to your question of COVID, yeah, I think it was evident to most people that all, as I mentioned, retailers need to have an online presence in today's world. But COVID was just one of the, I guess, triggers that pushed them quicker into that market than would have ordinarily happened.
So you're based in Australia, yes?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, I have a home in New York as well.
Okay, so but yeah, with the accent, it's pretty obvious right there. So okay, so here in the United States, like I mentioned as well, there are, obviously you have Nevada, which is kind of the mecca here. You have New Jersey with their casinos, and a lot of states now have different casinos and things like that. But like you had mentioned as well, as the Online Gaming Act, I believe it was called as well, really kind of made it difficult. But now there seems to be in the states definitely a movement. Obviously with first we started out with fantasy, was DraftKings that really made the big kind of push to them. I actually owned a daily fantasy sports company myself, so I kind of, like I said, I was playing in that world.
Right.
I was playing in that world for a while. But as a CEO of Golden Matrix, a publicly traded company, where do you see your biggest upside potential? Is it the United States, or is it abroad, or is it a combination of the two?
So we do see the United States is a valuable market right now. In a B2C environment, it's not something that we're keen on entering. And as I just mentioned, there are two segments of the players in the market right now. One are recognizable names such as Hard Rock, Caesars, MGM. Those operators have an ability to recruit players by virtue of the fact that they have a brand and they have a land-based presence. And that's one way of recruiting. The people that are exclusively online, the problem for them in America right now is that their cost of acquisition is massive, and it's unsustainable. So everybody's fishing in the same pond. They're all competing for the same players, and in doing so, pushing up the price of these players and to an unrealistic number. And so, if you were to study some of the financial aspects of these operators that are exclusively online, you would find that the cost that they're buying the players for way outstrips the value of the player. So it's a very simple formula generally in online business as a whole, not only online gambling. You buy a player or you acquire a player for a certain amount of money, and then you have an ability to extract money from that player. I use the word extract, it's a bit nasty, but anyway, you have an ability to earn some money from that player over time, and that becomes his lifetime value. So I'll give you an example. If I was to pay $100 to acquire a player, and I was to get a lifetime value from that player of $1,000 over 12 months, then what would happen is I would have a net amount of money, would be a profit to the casino. But if you were to buy that player, which is what's happening in America right now, for about $700, and you were only to be able to get $200 from the player, well, you've got a black hole that pretty much gets worse and worse. And so you keep on buying players because you're generating more and more revenue, which looks really nice. But the underlying problem is that you're burning money, because those players that you're buying can never generate the amount of money you need to pay back your acquisition cost. And so then you get caught in a situation where you've got big revenues and the market expects you to continue to deliver those big revenues, but you can't afford to continue to buy those players, because you're losing money on them. And so if you diminish the acquisition drive that you have, then your revenues are going to fall away, and it becomes what's called a runoff business. So you have revenues that are going down, and your profitability, not your profitability, your losses actually, that are getting less and less, which isn't really a good thing either. So now you might be better in your losses, but your revenues are coming down, and you don't really have a way of turning it around. Like I say, it's not a complex formula. In relation to Golden Matrix, getting back to what we do in the B2B side of the business, as I mentioned, we supply technology that allows people to have either a full turnkey solution. So somebody would come to us and they would say, listen, I have a small online casino, a land-based casino, and I'd like to be operating online. What do you think? And we say, well, that's really nice. Do you have access to customers? And they say, yes, we have customers. And so, all right, we'll build you a fully blown online casino, a turnkey solution. We'll train you to operate this business. We, in fact, help you in the initial stages in operating this business, and it won't cost you anything up front, but you'll have to share your success with us in a form of a usage fee, a SaaS type fee, or a royalty. And so what would happen is we would build the casino for this operator, and then they would begin operations, And the more money they make, the more money we make. If they're not successful, then we don't make any money. And so we'd have to be confident that they'd have a good chance of making money. And that's pretty much our structure. But the important part of what we offer is that our loyalty program, which is our retention, our customer retention piece, is extremely powerful. It is an artificial intelligence type of program, and ultimately it I'll use the word again, extracts as much money as it can from the players, and therefore that simple formula that I mentioned, if you're paying $100 for your player, and our system can keep that player loyal because you've already paid for him, and now the system is keeping him alive and keeping him engaged, then that becomes highly valuable, because without it, you cannot operate your casino successfully. And so we're a go-to product in Asia, because people know that our loyalty systems help them to generate more money from their players and keep the players loyal. So getting back to the US, for instance, let's assume everybody's fishing in the same pond. People are buying these players. There's a massive churn on the players. I use the word churn, which means that the players come in and they accept free money, they get free gifts, they get all sorts of offers from these licensed gaming entities, online entities in the US, and then they take the free money and then they loyal for a few days because that's what suits them. They play their money, and then tomorrow they see an offer from some other casino, and off they go. And I think the real value of online is that in online, we know the identity of these players. We don't personally, but the operators do know the identity of the players, their habits, which games they like, which games they're skilled at. And so all of that information is very important. And the most valuable part of it is you're in their living room, you're in their home. And whereas a land-based organization only has these players for a short period of time. So they may go to Las Vegas for 2 or 3 days, they may play, and then they go home. And if you know that that loyalty could change, but generally a player may think, well, I like to stay at the Wynn, so I'll go back to the Wynn, and I have a lovely experience. I've got a nice pool and whatever else. So their loyalty is in fact maybe to the brand. But when they leave the hotel, then obviously that income dries up, and hopefully they'll get them back. The positive for online is that you always have them if you can keep them. But the danger there is in online world, they can, within 2 seconds, they can move from one web address to another, click on the link and be in somebody else's casino. And so without an extremely powerful loyalty program, such as what we offer, then your dynamics of your business is compromised, because you buy the player, he plays his games, and then he's gone, and you don't know where he is, and you don't know what happened to him. And the other important thing is that a casino is a statistical business. So really what happens is the longer you can keep the player playing, the more he'll lose, because it's always in the favor of the house. There is no, discussion regarding who will win the money over time, is because the casino has the edge. The games are designed to give the casino the edge. And also what happens with these systems, these advanced loyalty and engagement systems, is that they also, in a lot of instances, impose a contractual type of wagering arrangement on the player. So I think that's quite complicated, but I'll give you an example. So if the player comes in and he's offered $100 free, for instance, in money, if he deposits $100. So now he comes in and he deposits $100, and the casino offered him $100 free, which is these offers all over from these casinos trying to compete. So now he has $200. So if he was to play one hand of blackjack, spend $10, and then say, okay, thank you very much, I'm out of here. Give me my $90 or whatever, my $100 that you offered me.
Hold on a second here. But a lot of the, I mean, again, because I do understand this rule, but a lot of those offers, those $100 offers, most of them, it's over time, so they're not going to deposit the full.
Yes, so exactly what I'm going to explain. So the contractual arrangement generally is something like, if you take the $100 free, then you're obliged to wager the total, which is 100 plus your 100, 200, 30 times. And unless you can wager it 30 times the 200, which is $6,000, then you cannot withdraw any money. And in some instances, it depends on the laws in the different countries, you cannot withdraw the free money. So contractually, like you say, what happens then is statistically, every time you bet in a casino, roughly 3% is in the house's favor. So if you took the $6,000 wagering and you times it by the 3%, you would have, the casino would have won back $180 statistically. So what will happen is it won back the 100 free plus $80 of your money. So that's the situation. But saying that is easily recognizable. That's the way you need to go. But you need sophisticated systems in order to monitor that, to manage it, and to engage the player on that basis. And without those tools, you know, it's very difficult to try and look after. To give you an idea, we have on the Golden Matrix system, we have over 500 unique casino operations and over 7 million players. So if in fact you had to manually try and work out what these players are doing and manage those processes, it would be near impossible without automated tools. And so what happens is also the system determines how skilled the player is in a particular game, and a lot about the player. So assuming he's a really skilled blackjack player and the margin on blackjack isn't as good as slots, it may offer him free money on slots on his next deposit. And he may restrict his play on slots because we know that the percentage on slots is achievable. Whereas if we gave him free money on blackjack or baccarat or something, it may not be sustainable. But then on the other hand, it may recognize that this player doesn't know what he's doing on blackjack. He's taking cards on two kings or whatever else. It'll flag him, and it'll identify the fact that he's not a skilled player, and we can give him additional money to entice him to come back. But anyway, I talk too much.
Oh, hey, listen, man, you're making my job easy. No, I appreciate it. So again, we're on with Brian Goodman. He's the CEO of a company called Golden Matrix that provides white label solutions, back office solutions, and really kind of a total technology package for companies that are interested in offering, online gaming for their existing customer base. If you'd like some more information about what Golden Matrix is doing, if you're in that world, or maybe even interested in that world, like I said, I kind of played in that world a little bit for a little while. I got my ass kicked, but that's all right. That was a whole nother story. Go to goldenmatrix.com. They publicly traded as well. Brian's actually in Australia right now, but the company's based in Las Vegas, and so they've been doing some big things, been profitable for quarter over quarter for years, and again, doing some big things. Go to goldenmatrix.com.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be wicked happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com, apparel to make you smile.
Brian, I want to talk to you about security. You'd mentioned and kind of briefly went down the path of talking about player profiles, player behavior, and basically talking about how these online platforms can adjust their what they offer the consumer based off of the customer's behavior and play history. So I want to touch on that, but first let's talk about security, because you go into a casino, you go into the win, like, it's my favorite casino. You go in there, you play craps, you throw the dice, you're watching what happens. You see the dice, if you hit, if you're crapping out all the time, you trust that you're throwing the dice. You're trusting that the dice aren't trick dice and any of that stuff. But when you're online and you're rolling the dice, it's all computer generated. Talk about trust. I mean, how can people really trust that the edge that you had mentioned is not even greater online for consumers?
Okay, so there is a situation where I guess when you walk into a land-based casino and you see IGT, machines, and you see scientific gaming, and the customers get some comfort from the equipment that they see. But also, like you say, the actual casino itself has a license that's governed by an American, authority, and so you get a load of comfort from that. In our world, the actual the operators are also licensed, so they have a jurisdiction that they're licensed under, depending on where it's being offered, and these most of these systems or the government's actually take an integration, so that they actually integrate it into the casino, so they can see transactional history, and there are different laws imposed in different jurisdictions. Some of these laws are imposed to stop people gambling too much, so there's a limit on how much people can bet and lose, and how much they can afford. It's a requirement that the casinos know their clients, KYC, but at the end of the day, they need to know what they can afford. So if they're starting to play large numbers, huge amounts of money, then they need to understand that actual client can afford to play that money before they allow him to continue. But in terms of the games, all of our third-party games, all our games are third-party games, and they come from the large distributors. So for instance, Playtech Limited, it's a UK listed entity. They dominate this market. Their games are best of breed. They are all certified. So they certified games that have been tested by external laboratories to show that they offer a certain percentage. And you can go, I think there's a website that's called Wizard of Odds. You can go and check out the website, and you can see that these games, what they return and what they don't. And it is true that some of the games, assuming there's a progressive, we call it, which is a jackpot game, let's say they're carrying $2 million or $3 million in jackpot games, the return to the casino would be a lot higher, probably 4.5% or even maybe 5%, because they have to fund the progressive. So a piece of that money that the player's losing goes towards funding the jackpot. And so some games, not all games are alike, but in answer to your question, they all of the games are tested and certified, and they perform within 2 decimal places probably to what they designed to perform. And if they don't, and let's assume it's a new game, and somehow it performs out of line with what it was built to perform, then there's immediate action taken on those games. But people who come into the casinos generally recognize these suppliers of games because they're all branded as well, and they get comfort from the fact that these companies are not underworld companies that are making games in their backyard. These are recognized games that are licensed and like I say, have been tested.
So yeah, I mean, okay, so I mean, you seem like a trustworthy guy. You're the CEO of a publicly traded company. Kind of the stuff you said just makes sense. And so really what we're talking about is kind of brand recognition, like you'd mentioned earlier. You'd mentioned some of the slot machine makers, and I actually have a little bit of experience in that world as well, and I know that for the software engineers, even the hardware engineers that are working on those machines, they actually have to have top secret clearance, and so they're pretty well buttoned up. But even in those instances where where it's almost kind of a hybrid between what you're talking about, online gaming and in person, in a casino, these new slot machines, I'm sure better than anybody. They have computers in there that are literally scanning people's retinas and and literally looking into their souls as far as what they're feeling, and offering a game, or maybe even allowing the customer to win just to keep them there longer, right? I don't think people realize that. So okay, in the online space though, if let's talk about the consumer for a second, because the people listening right now might not, they might not be in this world, but they're
Mhm.
interested in online gaming. So
Mhm.
it really, like, if you were going to give advice to a consumer that was going to partake in quote online gaming, whether that be daily fantasy, which is totally legal here in the States, but or even I don't know, they want to play blackjack online outside of the States, as far as kind of best practices for them to feel comfortable, is it just literally a brand that they recognize, or there are some red flags that they should pay attention to while they're participating in online gaming?
Yeah, I think the first thing is a licensed product, a regulated product. So certainly in America, if the product is regulated, there would be there would be no chance of any games appearing in those regulated online casinos. That shouldn't be there. That are outside the what's acceptable in a regular casino world, and like I say, between 3 and 5% maybe when it comes to slots. And the table games play by the rules anyway; they offer up the percentage that they should. So yeah, I think these casino sites have got pictures of the regulator at the bottom of the screen. I would always look for that, and then the games themselves. So I mean, when you're within the casino and you're looking at all the different games, there's games that are recognizable because you see them in the land-based world as well. So they're games that are branded, recognizable, companies that are recognizable. And if you want to rather stick to those games, well then that's what I would recommend. But they may have some arcade type games and things like that, which you really don't know what the return is. But I mean, maybe just as entertainment, people will play them. They're games like, they call them fish games, which are like arcade shooting games, things coming across the screen and you shoot these things. But they're more for entertainment, those, and they offer probably a low payback to the players. But in terms of slots and hardline gambling, and in terms of the tables in a licensed facility as well as the games themselves, I think you can get some comfort from that, and it also goes to the customers. Playing in a licensed or regulated product, it goes to the customer feeling that his information is kept confidential, and that nobody's going to break into the system and or easily and take away his information or sell it to somebody else, and so that's important as well. And just in terms of the relationship between the player and the casino operator, it's, what would I say? It's not like it's a little different to assuming I was running a dress shop, and a lady came in and she bought a dress from me and she paid me a lot of money and off she went with the dress. What you have is two people that are happy. So you have the shopkeeper that's happy because they had a good sale, and you have the lady who went off with her dress and she's really happy because she's bought a nice product. But in the casino world, sometimes, and like I say, there's some of it is for entertainment purposes, but other is generally the player against the casino, and the casino against the player. And so the relationship between the parties is not always a win-win, because the casino, some of the players obviously will win, some will win big jackpots and that, but overall the casino is the winner, because statistically that's how it's built. And so from the flip side, looking at it from the casino side, you have to have, as a casino operator, you have to have a system that is 100% sound, because you have a hostile crowd of customers that are looking to take your money. So it sounds strange, but I'm just trying to think how to put it in a soft way. But the reality is, when players come into a casino, they're not looking to give you their money and go home and feel good about it. They're looking to take your money. So they're looking to win, which is fair enough. They're coming in and they want to have a win. And when they don't, so there is a sort of a relationship that's a little different to a regular business. And in saying that, you have players, groups, businesses that are trying to hack into your casinos, trying to bring the casinos down, DOS attacks. You're faced with all sorts of things that you would never really see in somebody, like I said, that's running a dress shop, or somebody that's even a bank. In a situation where there's a bank who's holding people's money, you would, if a person tried to hack into a bank and they were found out, a person would go to the FBI or to the police, I'm not exactly sure where in America, and say, hey, this guy tried to hack into my bank, and the guy would probably end up in jail. But in a casino, it may be a little different. I mean, as you go and say, hey, this guy tried to hack into my game and take some money that wasn't really his, and I'm assuming the result of that would be, tell somebody who cares. I say these things lightly, but just to paint a picture of what we're dealing with in reality. And so going back to Golden Matrix, when I tell you that we've got 500 unique casino instances on our platform, we've got 7 million players, and we've got all of these people that are trying to win money. The benchmark is very high, and there are not many people that can achieve these kind of numbers in a environment where it's and like I said, it's both sides. We're keeping the players' information confidential, and we're keeping the system up, and we're keeping it stable. And then on the other hand, also we're protecting ourselves from outside hacking and whatever else, which ultimately would compromise the player as well. And so these are huge issues. And when you have, as you mentioned, we have a company that's 15 straight quarters of profitability. People came into our company at, say, I don't know what, 5 or 6 cents, some of them as investors, and now they're at $5 something, 100 times the investment, and they continue to support us. And we had a couple of operators, and now we've got 500, and we continue to grow. These are not things that you can just take lightly. These are huge achievements. And whilst the company is not a massive scale right now, it continues to scale, and it'll continue to buy things, creative, profitable businesses that help it move on. But security is a huge, it's a huge thing in terms of this category of business.
In a second, I want to talk to you about a couple of different things. I want to talk to you about the different types of games, specifics, and also I don't know if you, I'm not sure if you have an opinion on this or where you see it going, but also streaming these types of games as well, on Twitch or YouTube in just a second. Again, we're on with Brian Goodman. Brian's the CEO of a publicly traded company called Golden Matrix. Golden Matrix is a company that, like you mentioned earlier, if you've been listening, really provides essentially kind of turnkey solutions for companies that are interested in providing this type of offering for their consumers. Or if you're interested in that space and you want to learn a little bit more about it, you can go to goldenmatrix.com. Again, they're publicly traded on the Nasdaq if you like what they're doing. check out all that financial stuff that you need to check out. Like you'd mentioned earlier, if you like what they're doing, you want to support them, then maybe take a look at what they have to offer as far as their pricing on the stock. Twitch here in the United States, I believe it's it's definitely in other countries. So Twitch is a huge platform owned by Amazon that it's still, I feel like it's still in its early infancy stages, but you do have some pretty big quote streamers, and like I watch poker all the time on Twitch. And then you have these kind of fantasy type games. In fact, on your website, I saw like an image with like a fantasy type game. I don't know what it was. Talk about first. Let's talk about streaming. Are you guys paying attention to that? Do you have any offerings for that, or are your customers looking at it? Is there big growth potential there? I'm just curious what your thoughts are on streaming.
So yeah, like I say, when I opened the conversation here, we're primarily in gambling, not gaming. So as in gaming, as in esports, and that kind of gaming. And so esports is a massive industry, and it's growing all the time as well. But it's not something that that we focused on right now, and primarily that's what's happening in a large portion of the streaming. But in terms of gambling, sorry. We offer up what's called live games, and live games are studios, huge studios, where there are real tables, where there are dealers that are standing behind these tables, and they are dealing cards, and it's like a Big Brother house. They're being filmed, and they have these scanners on the table, and they scan the cards, and people can play online with real dealers. So real environments where there are tables and whatever else. Primarily, they baccarat tables, and there's a reason for that. In a game where there's no decisions to be made, as in baccarat, plays by the cards that are dealt instead of the player's decision. So in blackjack, you might get 16 or something, and you may decide, oh, I want another card, or I don't want another card. There's a decision being made, and so you can only fit at a table whatever the table takes, 6 or 7 people or whatever it may take. That's all you can fit at the table, because there's a decision being made, and you can't what we call overlay the table. So in a live environment where you're streaming and the table is baccarat, for instance, and there are no decisions being made by the players, we can have on one table, we could have 100,000 people overlaid on that table. And all in all, because no decisions are being made, it's as if they're all sitting at the table, and they believe they are, and all they do is they watch the dealer in real time deal the cards, they place bets, and for us, that streaming is very valuable. And right now, the live table business, as we call it, is growing exponentially as well, because in a lot of instances, people prefer to play with a live dealer, like a live game, and looks as if they're sitting at the table. But actually, we could have, like I say, an unlimited amount of people, 100,000 people at that same table. And then the cost effectiveness of the table is huge, because we have a studio where maybe we've got 10 tables, and each of them are hosting 100,000 people. I mean, you can't imagine. Whereas in a land-based casino, a table can only seat as many people as you can fit around it. So that's in answer to your streaming question. And in order to stream those games, obviously you need sophisticated streaming technology, and needs to be real time, because you can't afford to have delays in a game like that, because I mean, people are on a blackjack table, like I say, maybe they're making decisions, taking an extra card, sticking, whatever it may be, and you can't afford for the tables to have delays. But in saying that, if I move across to gaming, as in esports, what's very puzzling to online gambling operators, a lot of us have been around a long time. I've been in this industry for over 20 years. And like I say, I was a B2C operator myself for many years. What's puzzling is we see these companies coming to the table and saying, well, we've got a company now, we're going to be taking bets on esports. And people are going to be playing esports, and other people are going to be betting on them. But in reality, it doesn't make a lot of sense, because as you can imagine, let's assume two teenagers are sitting in the basement of their house playing Xbox against each other, and you're offering a bet on these people. It's not achievable, because these two people that possibly are entering into this game, it could be collusion, it could be who knows what's fraud. I mean, two people sitting there saying, okay, get your mate to bet on me. I'll just throw this the esport game. And so these kind of transactions are not achievable in real life. I mean, you can talk about them and you can say you're going to do them, but ultimately they're not going to work. And in sports betting, for instance, any game of two people is quite dangerous. And so if there's a tennis event and there are only two players, well, you can imagine the risk of what's going to happen. And the same applies for esports, because in esports, maybe a sanctioned event, you could bet on it, because the person who's playing it wouldn't want to give up the game because his status or his ranking is affected. And so that may be a safe bet, but you wouldn't want to really bet on an unsanctioned event, the same as tennis or any of these sports books wouldn't offer up odds on these matches because they're way too dangerous. And so that's my take on that. But we have a system that we're about to launch, which is an esports peer-to-peer system, which allows two people to play each other and bet against each other, which is different. Then you only have the two parties playing each other, and you don't have other people betting on an outcome that they have no idea how it's going to be achieved.
So in that scenario, they're just playing heads up and betting against each other.
Exactly, and the casino takes a commission, just like a poker game, takes a rate.
So, I know we don't have a ton of time with you, but that scenario that you described of the the live dealers, I've seen those before. It's really interesting, and I've seen them. I saw them years ago, and I think of the metaverse right now, and everyone's talking about the metaverse and what's going on in the metaverse and the growth of that, and everybody needs to be there, and et cetera, et cetera. What are your thoughts on the metaverse? I mean, because what you described essentially is kind of like the metaverse. You're on a computer, you're staring at a computer screen, and there's a dealer sitting there, and they're dealing you the cards, and But is there are you seeing any sort of movement in the metaverse in this space of are we using the word gambling? Yeah, gambling.
Gambling, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I guess the metaverse is being looked at by most major players. It's a sort of a light year step for us, because it's something that a lot of us don't really understand fully, and not understand in what takes place in a metaverse, but more so understand in how we operate in a metaverse. And so, for instance, we could, and I'm not saying we are going to, but we could, if the timing and the business support for it was made sense, then we could build a metaverse ourselves. Let's assume we built a Las Vegas strip in the metaverse, and then what would happen is we could sell licenses to casino operators to come into our metaverse and to operate there. And what we would do is potentially sell them a piece of land, and then build them a casino, and then help them operate.
Right.
And give them the game. So really now what you have is you have a metaverse where there's a strip. There may be 20 casinos on the strip, because these guys have come in. They know that their players wandering around the metaverse, and so they now, as if they're on the Las Vegas strip, they're captive players, and they're moving around, and they're coming into the casinos and deciding which one they want to play in. But they've got a clientele that are walking up and down the street in virtual terms, and they're coming along, and they play inside this metaverse. And we, as a supplier, we charge money to sell our property in the metaverse. Then we can charge a royalty for them to operate there, and then we own. I use Las Vegas as a name, but I mean just to visualize it. But yeah, we own a Las Vegas in the metaverse, And
Brian,
so
I don't know, man. I don't know if this has happened here on the show, on the Alden Report or not, but I mean, I think we just described the next vertical for Golden Matrix.
exactly.
You know,
And it's crazy because when you think about it, it's exactly what we do. But now all of a sudden you've got a captive clientele, and you may introduce other kinds of shops. You may lease out a shop and say, hey, hold on, we're going to sell, NFTs, we're going to sell whatever we're going to sell in these stores. We may sell some, just like you would see in Vegas. You may be a restaurant, I don't know, with some vouchers. But you create a whole world out there. And then you think, oh, hold on a second, it sounds a bit strange. I mean, it's virtual, is it real? But online gambling is virtual. It's the same thing. The only difference in the situation is that the metaverse is a place where people can come and open a casino, pay some money for it, but know that there's a clientele roaming around.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. You know, I have some friends that are really kind of doing some big things in that space, and I think it's a perfect fit. You know, for what you guys are doing. Man, I could probably keep you here for hours. So just real quick before I do let you go. So I do have a couple questions, just for me, for like on an operational side of things. So these so let's say all right, so Golden Matrix is domiciled in Vegas, but a lot of the stuff you can't do here in the United States. So when I think about I don't even know, like a website. So I mean, so they go to a website, it's online gaming, but most of the stuff is offshore, right? So from a back office or back end support, like as far as the currencies, are a lot of these casinos now using cryptocurrency? I mean, I know that Visa, MasterCard, still kind of has some issues with processing, cards for gambling. Does Golden Matrix offer a solution for that? What are these companies doing?
So we have a capability of offering crypto, but we don't see much of it out there with our operators. Our operators, some of them are credit based, so they offering what we call the hierarchy system. They have like a system. I say pyramid. That's a nasty word, but a system whereby they have agents, sub-agents, sub-agents that are moving chips between themselves and making a commission on it. And so like Herbalife type of situation where you have people that are coming and playing, and then they're selling chips to other people in the system, and then they move the chips like that.
Gambling MLM, what do I sign up?
So that's how they recruit their players. So really, you have a master operator. He has maybe 10 agents below him, and then they have 100 agents below them, and then it grows out into a massive organization. At the bottom are the players, and we don't know, because we only supply the systems and the actual framework for the people to be able to conduct these kind of operations. But it may be that they're providing credit. So the player right at the bottom, there's a guy who meets him in a pub and says, hey, how would you like to gamble? And he says, yeah, no, I'd love to. And so, okay, I'll give you $10 credit, come and play. And then next week he goes to collect the money from them, and he passes that money up the chain. So we don't know if these guys are being given credit, but what we understand is that most of it is regular payment gateways like PayPal, maybe Visa, MasterCard, Union Pay, and then the other is credit based. So we don't know how they actually collect their money, because they're the operators. We don't know the identity of their players, because obviously if we knew the identity of their players, I mean, that would be very dangerous to them. We only know, we have a unique identifier for the player, and that's how we deal with him. But we are unable to access the information on those players. But in answer to that, we don't see a lot of crypto, even though there are large crypto businesses out there. But the stigma attached to crypto is potentially a problem right now for regulated gambling businesses.
Wow, man, lots of stuff going on. I want to thank you for coming on today. I was super excited to talk to you. Very, very interesting, what Golden Matrix is up to. And it's really interesting just here in the United States to see how the world is changing here. And I believe DraftKings was a big kind of driver of that, several years ago. So again, I want to thank you for coming on. If you'd like some more information about Golden Matrix or Brian Goodman, you can go to goldenmatrix.com. Again, they're publicly traded on the Nasdaq. Like you mentioned earlier, they've been profitable for 15 quarters, and they're just doing some really, really interesting things. And to me, it was kind of selfish to have you on because I'm interested in this world. So thank you again for being here. Thanks for dealing with some of these technical difficulties. My name is Mike Alden. You can't see him, but you can hear him. That's Brian Goodman. We are here in Blue Bay Studios without the actual video, but we do have the audio, and that's really all that matters. So again, my name is Mike Alden. That's Brian Goodman, and we'll talk to you soon.
Today's episode is brought to you in part by Wicked Happy. The way you live your life depends on your outlook, and theirs is simple. Be Wicked Happy. Wicked Happy provides you with apparel to make you smile. So if you want to be wicked happy and you want to look wicked cool, then visit wickedhappy.com, and at checkout, enter in the code RADIO for an additional 15% off your entire order. Again, visit wickedhappy.com, apparel to make you smile.